Hello programming geniuses, welcome to yet another video. I have one question for you. Are you tired of writing repetitive code and scrolling through lines and lines of code just to find that one specific part? Well, I have a solution for you. Functions. In this video, we're going to cover functions in C programming with an example, and I'm going to tell you why functions are important. By the end of this video, we're making a function. It's going to be an average function. Not that that function is average and basic and blah. No, but it's a function that returns the average of two numbers. Functions are the superheroes of the programming universe. Yes, I said it, superheroes. Here's why. Functions are a block of code that do something very specific, just like what superheroes do, something specific. Flash is fast, Superman is strong. And they can be used whenever you call upon them. Just like Batman with the thing in the sky. Now, before we jump into the details of what functions are, how they look like, let me tell you about this important function, unique function. Yeah, the main function. So the main function should be there in every C program because this is where the compiler starts compiling your code. And the main function is the entry point for your C program, for any C program. So it must exist, it needs to be there. Now, I'm going to tell you what declaring a function is in a minute, defining a function and calling a function. But let me just say this, we do not declare the main function, we just start by defining it. And again, we do not call a main function. We just define it. We just say what it does. Let me show you an example of the main function. I'm going to create a file. I'm going to call it main.c, touch main.c. Good, let's open it. What does this function do? So quickly, let me include the standard IO header file. And this is going to be a comment, as you can see. Now this is now the main function. So this is how you write it. You start with an int because it returns an integer. That first part is the return type, integer. Main, the name of the function, main. Nothing, I don't want it to accept any parameters, so I explicitly write void. Now, this is a very, very special part. Pay attention. I'm printing something to the console. Yeah, I'm going to output that. Please, if you're watching, please, why not? Then we return 0 inside the brackets. So there it is. We have it. We have the main function and it's the entry point of the program. It returns an integer, as you can see here, and its name is main, parameter, no parameters, so explicitly say void, no parameters, and it prints out of the console. Please like this video. Return 0 to signify it's the end of the program. So that's the main file, that's the main function. It's important because, as I said, this is the entry point of your program. Every C program must have the main function. We do not call it anywhere. Just a minute, I'm going to let you know about what calling is. And we do not declare it. We just define it and we just start writing code inside of it. That's the main function. Now let's move ahead and write our other functions. So as you can see right now, we only have the main.c file. Before we start using a function, we have to declare it. Declaring a function is just letting the compiler know that, hey, this function exists. I exist. My name is here. This is what I do. Yeah, that I exist. Now, you could declare your code directly in your C, your source code file, the files that end with a .c. But I declare my files in the header file. It's just good. It helps me organize, and I can declare all my functions in one file and just import that file whenever I need to use my functions. So for purposes of declaring, let's create again our own file, our own header file. I'm going to call mine main.h. Let's open main.h, and there's a lot of things that you could write, but right now we're just going to declare the function. And declaring a function, we write the function's prototype. Let me tell you what the function prototype is and how you declare a function. First things first, what does this function return? It returns the average, two numbers. It might, the number, if you're talking about averages, what's going through my mind is, what if it's an odd number? If it's a number like 3, once we add two of them together, and that average might have a decimal place. So the return type of the number needs to accommodate decimal places. And I can't think of a better data type than the float. So I write that first, the return value of the function. The second thing is, what am I going to call this function? For a function that returns the average, let's use a descriptive name and let's just call it average. Good. Now, the other things, so I write the name average and I open the parentheses just right next to it. A function that returns the average of two numbers needs two things. It needs two numbers. And these two things, we pass them down as parameters. Now, whatever we write inside the parentheses are called the parameters. So, for the sake of avoiding a lot of conversion and I don't know what, let's just say it also accepts parameters of the float data type. So we have a float, float num1 and float num2. And then finally we end that line with a semicolon. That is the function prototype. That's the whole line. That's the function prototype, and that's how we declare a function. You write the return data type there. As you can see, you have a float, the name of the function, it's average, and inside the parentheses we write the parameters or the arguments that this function accepts, including their data types as well. So in my case, I have float number 1 and float number 2. Awesome. We've declared a function. So remember those three elements: the return data type, the name of the function, parentheses, and then inside the parentheses you put in the parameters that are required for that function to work. Awesome. So as you can see right now, I have two files, a main.c and a main.h file, our header file and the main function. I'm going to write our function in its own separate file, and I'm going to now take you to the second part where we've declared the function. We've said the function exists, we've declared it in our main.h file. Now we're going to define the function. So I'm going to create a file called average.c, and this is where I'm going to define the function. So let's open average.c. Now we declare the function. The declaration, the compiler needs to know where to look so that it can see the declaration, and because of that we're going to include our header file in this particular file. Okay, so include our main.h. That's the first step, and as I always do, I am going to, I hope this thing works. Yeah, I hope it does work. And as I always do, so the file name is average, and I just briefly describe what it does. Returns the average of two floats, and then it has parameters. I also describe what the parameters are. So there's num1 is first float, and at num2 okay, actually need to use these ones, second float. So I need to correct this up here. Like that. That's fine. Good. And then, okay, sorry. Then the return type. I need to say what it returns. So returns the average of num1 and I think we have it. That's fine. Okay, so let's now start writing the function. Sorry, that's just like an unnecessary thing, but I find it useful to at least to see what the function does. Very descriptive for other people. So let's write. So we start again with the return data type, which is float, then the name of the function, which is average, and the data type of the first parameter, which is also float, and that's num1. And for the second one, num2 as well. And then we open the body of the function. Inside, let's create a variable called float avg. This is where we're going to store our average. Then we're going to say avg is equals to, let's add the first number, num1 plus num2. We add them together and we divide them by 2. That's it. That's how we get the average. And once we have the average, we return the average, avg. That's it. That's a very simple execution of the code. No description found for return value average. It's supposed to be return. Yes, sorry. It's supposed to just write return. There we have it. That's our code. So we've created a variable called avg, and avg, we assign it the value once you add num1 and num2 together and divide that result. That's the average. That's how we get the average. And then we return avg. Good. That's it. We have declared that variable. First, we declared it. We have defined the variable. Now, whatever we want to average two numbers, we have a function that can do that to us. That can do that for us. So let's use the function. Let's use it in our code. Now I'm going to go back to my main.c file, main.c, and here we are. So initially I was printing out numbers. So let me, what have I done? Sorry. So let me say, let's create two variables. It's going to be my name and someone else's name. They're going to be floats. So first of all, float. Akuya, that's my name. And the other name is, let's say I have a friend called Sam. Akuya and Sam. So we're going to store our weights there. And then we're going to find the average of our weights. So let's say Akuya weighs 80.5 kgs. I don't have to write kgs. 80.5. And Sam weighs 75.9. Just 0.0 shy of 76. Now let's get the average of Akuya's and Sam's weight. So we have our function. So first of all, we don't have access to it yet. We need to include that function. And we include the main.h because that's where we declared it. Okay, I don't need to have that. So we include the main.h because that's where we did our function declaration. And then now we can use it. Now we can use it if we want to. So let's write average. I'm going to print the average in the console. So printf %f if we are returning the float data type, and that's going to be average, Akuya, and Sam. And I'm going to add the semicolon over there. Good. So let me just make this, let me format the output a little bit better. So say the average weight is with a space, and then we'll end with a new line. There it is. Good. So what we expect from this is us calling the function. This is this. So how do you call a function? You just write it, the name, parentheses, and provide the necessary parameters if required. This function returns a value, so it's going to the value that's going to be returned is what's going to be there, the printf, and it's what's going to be included in the output. So yeah, we call it just like that, so that's it. So now let's compile our program. By the way, if you don't know how to compile programs, this is a video I made about compiling, and it goes step in step, like every single step on the compilation process of C programs using GCC. It's amazing. You won't ever have to look at compilation again once you're done with that video. So yeah, check it out. It's gonna be somewhere there. Yeah, you're going to see the link somewhere there. I think it's this side. This, I'm betting is this. If I'm wrong, terrible. Let's compile it now. Let's compile the program. GCC, then where my first average program is located, where we wrote the function, the average function. So average.c and then main.c, and we can output it into a file, called executable. Let's call it that. And now we can see we have an executable file. It's called executable. So let's write it down. So executable, the average weight is 78.1999997. We've used the function correctly, and it's been used to print up a project. So in conclusion, let's just repeat what functions are. They're superheroes of the universe because they're blocks of code that do a specific thing, just like superheroes, and can be called upon whenever needed, just like superheroes. That's a function. And they help you simplify. You use less lines of code in your main program, so you get to refactor your code into different files the same way I've literally shown you here. I don't have to have long lines of code in just one function, because I could have written all of those inside the main function, but it's more concise, it's crispier, it's nice, looks way more organized. And also don't forget about the main function. It's a special function, must be there for every C program. We do not declare it, we do not call it, we just define it, we just write what we want to write inside of it. And that's it. Happy coding. Thank you so much for watching, and I see you on the next one.